I invited Fox Sports Big Ten writer Michael Cohen, my friend, to talk about what he thinks about Ohio State, Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Dillon Gabriel. He was at Big Ten Media Days, and he's got some takeaways, and we kind of get into it. I like doing this sort of stuff. If you like me having these sorts of guests on, please let me know in the comments below. And since you're here, please subscribe to the channel. 66% of the people that watch this channel don't subscribe to it. And we are over 95,000 subs, and I'm still just trying to get to 100K to get my little national championship that is the form of a play button. So please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Now, you're going to listen to me talk to Michael Cohen about these things that I mentioned, Jeremiah Smith, Dillon Gabriel, and of course the Buckeyes and Will Howard, what I think. I also put this up in a couple of other segments if there are parts of this that you just don't want to get to, or you want to focus on what you are here to learn or what you're here to hear us talk about. So take a look on the channel, see what you like, let me know what you think, and we'll see you after. Hey, Mike, so you went to Big Ten Media Days, and one of the things that I always like to talk about is what people don't talk about at Big Ten Media Days. So given where you were and given the people you were talking to, let's talk about how you feel about Ohio State, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, RJ, I'm really excited that we could do this, and thanks for giving me the chance to talk about Big Ten Media Days last week. Ohio State, they were the talk of day one. They were the one team there on day one that everybody wanted to hear from, and it was a fascinating dance with Ryan Day and the players about how much or how little they wanted to lean into these unbelievable expectations that there are for them going into this season. Whether it's Denzel Burke saying natty or bust back in the spring and then doubling and tripling down every time he's asked about it, or even Ryan Day, who has gotten up at that podium in past years and kind of tried to temper expectations a little bit. He's tried to maybe lean into it a little bit more because he knows just how good this team is. And so he wasn't necessarily saying natty or bust the way Denzel did, but he kind of said, look, we know how good this team is. We know there's a ton of hype and a ton of discussion about this team. And it was just fascinating to see like how they're going to try and balance out this season, because in some ways it is truly national championship or bust for the program, and maybe even for Ryan Day, depending on what happens in some of their bigger regular season games against Oregon and Michigan. So I am fascinated to see how this shakes out. I think Ohio State is absolutely one of the most talented teams in the country, but with Will Howard being a little bit of an unknown guy in terms of what he will look like in this offense and with this skill set that he brings and what it will adapt to with the receivers and running backs and tight ends that he has, I just got to see it to believe it with Will Howard. And that doesn't mean I don't believe in him as a player overall, because I know he had tremendous success at Kansas State at times, but I just want to see it with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. So RJ, what do you think of the Buckeyes?
I have told you, and I'm being loud about this opinion, all he has to do is be Craig Krenzel on that Ohio State national championship team. And Craig Krenzel wasn't the athlete that Will Howard is. Like I have told people, that is farm boy Cam Newton out there. That is 6'5", 240. And you know that I play a lot of EA Sports College Football 25. See me on the sticks. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And this is not necessarily to Mike. This is to the rest of y'all. Come find me. But Will Howard is an absolute monster in this game. He's the best free quarterback you're going to get in the game. Now, he can't make any throws downfield, and he's so-so in medium. But if you're going to run zone read or you're going to roll out when somebody's in man coverage, he's your guy. I wonder how applicable that skill set is going to be to the playmaking that you want to see from Will Howard, because, again, making a big throw is making the right throw, or is it taking that shot downfield to Emeka Egbuka or even a Jeremiah Smith and watching what that guy goes and does with it?
Well, that's the interesting part to me, is how much does Will Howard run the football this year if he wins the starting quarterback job? And Ryan Day has been in these situations before where he's wanted to run the quarterback. Obviously, he's done it with Justin Fields. He did not do it hardly at all with CJ Stroud. But then the best game Stroud ever had, that game against Georgia, he did make things happen with his legs, even if they weren't designed runs. But the one interesting thing that I want to draw your attention to, and you're probably already aware of it, but just for the listeners and the viewers, Ryan keeps talking about how this is the first time they have enough quarterback depth for him to feel comfortable running the football more often. And so that makes me kind of think that, there might be 4 to 6 designed quarterback runs a game, because they have 5 scholarship quarterbacks between Will Howard, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Julian Sayin, and Aaron Nolan. They're not going to rely on all 5 of them, obviously, but they have enough depth to where I don't think they're scared if the top guy gets hurt, that they won't have somebody else that can at least get the job done and play quarterback or play point guard and just get the ball to the right people. So I don't know. Do you think that's something that would marry into Chip's system? Would Will Howard run it 4 to 6 times a game? Will's also said that he doesn't really want to run it that much.
And no quarterback really wants to run the ball. Like that's the thing. No quarterback really wants to. Like I said that Justin Fields was not a running quarterback, and I got some pushback on the channel. It's like, how dare you say that Justin Fields is not a running quarterback? Like he didn't run. I'm like, mobility is a mode. It is not a trait. Because you can does not mean you do. You've seen Patrick Mahomes, and that man is the peak of man. With the beer gut and all of it, he's mobile. He can move around to throw the ball. And I think Will's basically making the same point that Justin Fields is making is, I want to throw the football because that's what I do. It's the same folks that were getting upset at C.J. Stroud for not running the ball enough. I'm like, y'all don't want C.J. to run the ball. Like, nobody wants C.J. to be running with the football. But to the point of the more designed quarterback runs, I think +1 scheme is going to help them because it helped Gus Malzahn with Cam Newton and Nick Marshall. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I think the quarterback depth thing is a red herring on all of this, and I also think that we're not going to see that many quarterback runs because there's this dude named Quinshon Judkins and this other dude named Travion Henderson who get paid to do that, quite literally. I would much rather put the ball in the hands of 32 or 1 than in my quarterback's hands. But that's where I come down on it. I'm not really – I don't think we're going to see Chip Kelly's offense when he had – Dennis Johnson at quarterback. That's just not Dennis Johnson, Dennis Jordan at quarterback, excuse me. We're not going to see that. I think we're going to see the offense that Chip Kelly was running when Marcus Mariota was quarterback, but would you call him mobile? Yeah. Would you call him dual threat? Yeah. Would you not say that he throws the football? He throws the football all the time. What are we talking about? And I guess that's one thing, right? I would add to this, Ryan Day's scored 41.8 points on average in every game for the last 5 years. Last year was the first time that we saw an offense that didn't quite look like the one that's explosive and goes and scores a bunch, but they had one of the two or three best defenses in the league. I think you're going to lean into that more than you did in years past, right? Because now you know they can hold up their end. So why not just run the football with those two tailbacks you got? Now, that leads me to another discussion. Offensive line. They seem to have a real hole at left guard. Now, I know we're getting to the weeds on this, but do you think that is going to get filled in a meaningful way, or are they just going to be vulnerable when they try to run the ball on the left side of the line?
Yeah, I mean, so they've got Donovan Jackson, and he's been around for a while, so it'll probably be him and Simmons on the left side of the line. And then at center, they've got the Alabama transfer, Seth McLaughlin, coming in. He's probably going to win that job. Right guard, I don't really know exactly what they're going to have there. Maybe Carson Hinsman or Seth McLaughlin if Carson Hinsman.
Tishabola, maybe?
Yeah, Tagovailoa is certainly in that mix as well. And then right tackle Josh Fryer. So I agree with you. I think this is the first time that there will be a Ryan Day team where the defense going into the season, people think it's going to be unquestionably better than the offense. And I think that is going to be more of the identity plus the running game. And so I'm with you. Play it like Michigan has played it the last couple of years. Play really good defense, run the ball. Don't ask your quarterbacks to do a ton, but just ask them to be successful in high percentage opportunities. And they have the skill players that would far exceed, especially at wideout, what Michigan has had talent-wise. So that's kind of the way I see it. I think they're going to be fine running the ball. I think between Justin Fry and Chip Kelly and the shared history that they had together at UCLA, they'll be okay putting together a running scheme. I would be a little bit more nervous about them in pass pro, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm with you. Lean on this defense. Lean on the running game. I know everybody wants to see Ohio State chuck it around the yard, but you might not have to. And if you don't have to, don't do it.
But if they have to, you're going to – I think that's where you might see the change at quarterback if we're looking at one. Because Ohio State fans are like, I don't know about Will Howard. And I'm thinking about Will Howard the way that I used to talk about Trey Sermon. Like when Trey Sermon went into the portal at Oklahoma, I was saying to anybody that would listen, he needs to end up at Ohio State because they need a tailback and he fits what they try to do. But even going into that late November year, I want to say 2020. Yeah, 2020. It was, we don't know what we have in Trey. And then Trey had a game of games going, oh, okay, this is our RB1. If that's what Will Howard can do, then we're all good here, right? It's if he can't, then we're probably going to see a Julian Sayin. For the same reason that I don't think we were going to see a whole lot of Devin Brown. I think Will Howard and he had the same skill set. They go about it a little differently. Devin's a faster man, but I just don't see it being about being able to run with the football as a quarterback. I see it, as you said, when you get into a pinch where everybody's loaded up in the box, what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to hit Emeka Egbuka or Carnell Tate or Brandon Ennis or Lord help us, Jeremiah Smith goes off and becomes who we think he's going to become. Before we get off that and get on to something else, I do want to ask this question. Who has more to gain or more to lose? Dillon Gabriel at Oregon or Will Howard at Ohio State?
Boy, that's a really good question. I'm going to say both, but for different reasons. I think Will Gabriel. Now I'm just blending them.
Right, I was going to say, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I think Will Howard has more to lose because I think there is a genuine chance. And when I say genuine chance, I don't mean greater than 50-50, but I just think there is a non-zero chance that he does not finish the season as Ohio State's starting quarterback, which is sort of what you just alluded to in our last question. So I think he has more to lose in that sense because he could go from playing a lot to not playing at all or playing significantly less. Dillon Gabriel is going to be the guy all season unless he gets hurt. But Dillon Gabriel could have more to lose in that I think he's a bona fide Heisman Trophy candidate. And so if he doesn't play quite as well as we think he can, or if the numbers aren't quite what we expect based on what he did at Oklahoma and UCF, he might not get that big prize that he's hoping for. And I know he has other goals too. He wants to win a national championship. He wants to win a Big Ten title, of course. But I think he knows he's the most experienced quarterback coming back, one of the most productive quarterbacks in NCAA history. And I think he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this season. So it's like different ends of the spectrum, but both guys have a lot to lose. I guess I would lean more toward Howard just because he came here to prove that he can throw the football and better his draft stock at Ohio State. And if he loses his job partway through the season, then that would be a real indictment of what he was trying to do. And it would kind of further the narrative that maybe he wasn't even going to be the guy at Kansas State anyway with Avery Johnson. And that's a player I know you really like as well, RJ.
I put it this way. If we're about winning, then Will Howard is the winner here, okay? Will Howard has won more Power 4 conference championships than Ohio State has in the last 3 years. He's also won a Big 12 championship, which Dillon Gabriel did not do. He also unseated an undefeated Texas Christian by himself, if we're being honest about this, in a Big 12 championship. I don't think that he was really threatened by Avery Johnson. I think they knew what they had, and if something should happen, you're probably gonna go to that. But I saw Will Howard against Texas, and I didn't see anything that I didn't like. I think you're seeing a lot of folks that are down on Will Howard ain't watched Big 12 football last year, and that is what it is, right? Whatever. You just don't like watching Big 12 football or didn't watch a lot of Kansas State. But I have, and I've seen his skill set, and I want to say that dude was majoring in finance or accounting before he got to Ohio State. So he's a very smart man on top of all of this, right? For Dillon Gabriel, I've been loud about this. If he has the kind of season plus 200 yards that Bo Nix had last year, he will leave this sport as the all-time leading passer. He will surpass Case Keenum and that number 1 overall total. And all he's got to do is go for 4,300 pass yards, 40 TDs, 3 picks or fewer, and do what Bo Nix couldn't do, win a Power 4 championship. I think that Gabriel has the most to lose on this because if for whatever reason you get the hook for Dante Moore, we know that it has gone bad in a way that Oregon fans ain't ready for. Will Howard, on the other hand, you're coming in this on a 50-50, right? You may end up leaving campus to starter. 6 weeks in, are you still going to be that guy? November, are you still going to be that guy? And if you're not, does it shock us? No. Can you transfer again? I don't know. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. But I think that he's got the most to gain, and I think Dillon Gabriel has the most to lose because we've already set the expectation. Like Dillon Gabriel is getting Heisman odds that are ridiculous. Will Howard, I think you can get the same money for him that you get for Travis Hunter, right? Which is to say, a quarterback's probably going to win this award, but if we give you the same odds, we give a guy going both ways on a team that went 4-8, that's how much faith we have in you as a starting quarterback. And Will Howard should use that to the best visibility to go play well. I want to switch topics real quick and go to the guy that we most want to see play, who has not played a down of college football, and his name for the first time is not Arch Manning. It is Jeremiah Smith. I'm curious what you have heard about this really great wide receiver and what you are willing to believe and what you're not ready to commit to.
Okay, well, before I answer that, you have to tell the viewers this. How good is Jeremiah Smith in this video game that I know you've toyed around with and played with? And let's start there.
So he's got an 80 overall rating when you start the game in, play now or dynasty mode, which is not too shabby, right? Or 84. He's up there. So he's already really good. He's being treated like a number 1 overall wide receiver or a number 1 overall player in the class. But in Ultimate Team is what I was talking about, and that's a totally different mode. I haven't got him in Ultimate Team. I'm sure that when I get him in Ultimate Team, I'm going to find out. But for perspective here, Quinshon Judkins is the most dominant player in player versus player Ultimate Team. If you got him, you're running Wildcat. You're running Wildcat because he's just that good. I don't know that they're going to give Jeremiah Smith that without, showing something in Big Ten play. But I think he is being touted like we expect him to be really great this year. Is that a long-winded way of answering your question? Yeah. Okay.
I really do. I think that with Emeka Egbuka firmly entrenched as their number one and Carnell Tate probably at number two, I could see him pushing for that third receiver spot, by the midway point of the season. I know Brandon Inniss is there. I know Mylan Graham is another 5-star that they've got. That's going to be a freshman and wasn't there in the spring, but he's going to arrive and be part of this. But gosh, I mean, the thing about Jeremiah Smith that just stays with me is he's every bit of like 6'4", 215 pounds. So like, he's not an 18-year-old with an 18-year-old's body trying to adjust to life at Ohio State. He has a NFL number one sized body and the skills of somebody who is much more talented than an 18-year-old. So I think it's going to be impossible to keep him off the field. I think he's going to be such a matchup nightmare that he's going to have a really good season. Now, does that mean 1,000 yards? Probably not. But if he gets 300, 400, 500 yards, I would not be surprised because I just think he's that good. And when Ryan Day was at Big Ten Media Days, off the podium talking at one of the smaller stages, he was asked about it, and he literally said, he's like, I gotta catch myself. He's like, I don't want to get too far ahead on this kid's career. We know what he is, we know what he think he can be, but he's a freshman, and I don't want to say anything that will be held against me or used against me or whatever. But like, if Ryan Day, who has seen all the first round receivers that he's seen, is like approaching it in that way, this kid is special. And I just think he's going to be a tremendous, tremendous player. And I'm absolutely fascinated to see what it looks like on the field.
I think he has the potential to be what Travion Henderson was when he first got to Ohio State. I mean, you could see it almost immediately, right? The speed, the way in which he could move. His thing was being injured. Is being injured, right? That his thing is, can you be healthy for a whole year? It's kind of like what I would have to say about Quinn Ewers, but that is the plane that I put him on. I know that there's lots of comparisons to Marvin Harrison Jr. because of what he did last year, the last 2 years, or even Jackson and Smith and Jigba. But I think if you are looking for a good comp and you really want to put your feet down, you put him down where Travion Henderson was. Like when he was coming out of Hopewell, I was telling anybody that would listen, that guy and the guy over in Napa Valley, those are the guys. Those are the ones you want. Napa Valley turns out to be who I thought, right? Who we all thought. Trey still got just a little bit to go there because you're entering a year in which, if I'm being honest, I didn't expect you to be at Ohio State. I expect you to be in the NFL. And you're probably going to start behind Quinshon Judkins, and you have something to prove to the new running backs coach, that is Carlos Lachlan, right? He's going to play the guy that he thinks is best, and if he thinks that Quinshon is best, that means that you're going to be the spell guy, but we saw it last year, especially against Notre Dame. He's a home run hitter, right? I think that's what you could get out of Jeremiah Smith. It's just about how it shows up. And not for nothing, it ain't C.J. Stroud throwing him passes, as we alluded to. It's going to be Will Howard or Julian Sand or Aaron Nolan or Devin Brown. I don't think it's going to be Lincoln Kingholz. Like, I'm sure Lincoln Kingholz and his people believe, they appreciate you, Mike, for bringing him up here. But I watch Cotton Bowl. You watch Cotton Bowl. At this point, you kind of let that dude be an Ohio State Buckeye at this point. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he pops back up at wide receiver. I don't know. But to your point about the depth they have, I think you're going to see that on display. And that's the reason I picked them. I picked them because they are desperate, right? That's why I picked them to win the national championship. They are desperate. They must win. And that sucks. That really sucks. Like, you feel up against the wall. I want Ryan Day to win one so he can walk off. I want him to be able to just kind of be like, cool, I finished. I got my national championship. But I can't take this no more. This is just too much stress. 56-8 here, and people want to get me fired. What are we doing? But no, I think you're right on the money with Jeremiah Smith, and as far as acknowledging his size and acknowledging how Ryan Day is choosing to talk about him. Michael Cohen covers the Big Ten for Fox Sports. College basketball, football, this is your man. Mike, let's do this again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure.